Hi, sports fans. How's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, the Kansas City Chiefs have begun this offseason in the National Football League in a very unfamiliar position. The reason why I say that is this: for the first time since 2014, the Chiefs failed to make the playoffs. And for the first time since 2012, they finished with a losing record. The Chiefs were completely on the other side of the coin in regards to one score games in 2024. We saw them go 11 and 0 in games that were decided by one score or less, while this past season they were just 1 and 9. Are age and the rest of the NFL catching up to the Chiefs? Those are two important questions right there. You think about it. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes is now in the process of rehabbing that torn ACL that he suffered in December against the Chargers. Even with that said, all signs do point to Mr. Mahomes being available for week number one of the 2026 season. You also look at tight end Travis Kelce, another staple in the Chiefs' success. He's going to be 37 in October, and then defensive tackle Chris Jones will be 32 in July. I've said this for the longest time, and I will say it again right now. There is a need for the Chiefs to have more playmakers on both sides of the football. You can't simply just rely on these three guys to bail you out all the time. And as this NFL draft is about 7 weeks away, give or take, will we see Kansas City be able to fill some holes on this team? Because they got a lot of holes, okay? But you look at the Chiefs, they're slated to pick ninth in the first round. And the last time that we saw Kansas City pick in the top 10 was when they traded up with the Buffalo Bills in 2017 to select Patrick Mahomes. And the last time that they used their own pick in the top 10, you've got to go back to 2013 when they selected offensive tackle Eric Fisher first overall. And of course, that was Andy Reid's first draft with the Chiefs. But with all of that said, because like I said, Kansas City's got needs on both sides of the football. What should be their top priority in round number one? One thing for me, you've got to think about protecting Patrick Mahomes because aside from coming off of the torn ACL, he was sacked 34 times last season, and that was just in 14 games. Patrick Mahomes was well on his way prior to the injury to getting sacked the most that he has in a regular season. He just got sacked 36 times in 16 games back in 2024. So we know that Mahomes is a scrambler, but usually it's to buy time for the play to develop downfield. If he has to take off, he will. But nonetheless, you've got a guy who's coming off of a severe injury. You've got to protect his blind side. We saw Kansas City use a first round pick in 2025 on offensive tackle Josh Simmons. Would they go out there and address the offensive line 2 years in a row? It's a possibility. You look at a guy like Caden Proctor from Alabama or Spencer Furneaux. Could they be available possibly for the Chiefs at number 9? And if they're gone, would somebody like Penn State guard Oliva Vega Ione, would he be available for the Chiefs? They need some interior help on that offensive line as well. And a guy like Vega Ione, you're talking about somebody who is 6'4", 323 pounds. That's a lot of beef up front. And again, you've got to protect your meal ticket in one Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City was also 25th this past season in rushing. Kareem Hunt was this team's leading rusher with just 611 yards on the ground. That ain't going to get it done, folks. Okay. Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love could be a possibility for the Chiefs at number 9. You're talking about somebody who in 2025 won the Doak Walker Award as the nation's top running back. He was also an All American. He had nearly 1,400 yards on the ground, and he scored 18 touchdowns as well. You look at a guy like Jeremiah Love, 6 feet, 214 pounds. He's strong. He has explosiveness. He could be in play for Kansas City potentially at pick number 9. And if you're the Chiefs, you'd have to take a lot of consideration into possibly taking him there. Kansas City also has a need for explosiveness or more explosiveness at the wide receiver position. At this stage of Travis Kelce's career, okay, again, like I said, he's going to be 37 in October. He can't be this team's leading receiver, especially when he only had 851 yards last year. We saw the Chiefs take Xavier Worthy in the first round a couple of years ago. He has not been the player to this point of his NFL career that the Chiefs envisioned when they took him in round number one. Just under 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns so far in 2 seasons. Would an Arizona State Jordan Tyson or a Carnell Tate from Ohio State be in the mix for Kansas City? All right. They also have to improve their defense. They were tied for 22nd last season in the NFL in sacks with 35. That's not going to get it done. Chris Jones, as a defensive tackle, led this team in sacks with just 7. Would a Sonny Styles or a David Bailey, if they were to be there, or maybe another edge rusher, be intriguing for the Chiefs to take with that ninth pick? I've said this before and I'll say it again. The bill has come due this offseason for the Chiefs in more ways than one. Now, yes, the Chiefs have won. Okay, they've been one of, if not the top team in the National Football League for the past, or basically this decade. All right, but as I've said in the past, they've relied too much on their big studs and Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, and Chris Jones to bail them out. That might no longer be the case as as it once was. So you've got to go out there and you've got to get more talent. And the AFC got a lot better very quickly. Okay. So I'm looking at it like this: you need a wide receiver, you need a running back, you need help on that offensive line, you need help on the D line, you need help in your secondary, you need help at linebacker. Clearly, you are not going to fill all of those holes in the first round. Clearly, you might not fill all of those holes in this draft completely. But if you're Kansas City, you've got to go out there, you've got to ask yourself, okay, best player available, and the possibility of somebody who's going to come in and fill one of these holes. It's going to be interesting to see if you've got a Jeremiah Love there at number 9, and you also have one of these quality offensive linemen. What direction do you go? Because you need to run the football better, but you also need to protect Patrick Mahomes. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Chiefs do if that were going to be the case. But the bottom line is, for General Manager Brett Veach and, of course, head coach Andy Reid, they've got to go out there and they've got to approach things differently than they have in the past couple of years. So, should we expect the Chiefs to have success in this draft and during the offseason? I think they will. I think this is going to be a very intriguing offseason. They're going to have to do it through the draft because, we saw Mahomes restructure his deal, but the Chiefs still have some work ahead of them to take care of their cap woes, okay? And especially if they want to get back atop the AFC West. But they've got to get it going in the draft once again. You look at how Denver got things turned around very quickly under Sean Payton. They're not going away anytime soon. The Chargers are a perennial playoff team as well. So it's not as easy a cakewalk, if you will, for Kansas City in this division. So I'm looking at it like this. They've got some holes on this team that they have to address. Hopefully, for their sake, they enter the draft with the right game plan to go out there and take care of their business as best as possible in each and every round. Big time off season for Kansas City. I think the Mahomes injury aside, I think they were a little embarrassed this past season because even if Mahomes had not gotten hurt, Kansas City was not going to be a playoff team. Okay. But now you want to get that thing back on track. You want to get that hunger back. All of those narratives that you can use to describe it. And I think it starts with taking care of your business next month at the draft. A lot of different directions that Kansas City can go in round number one. Like I said, what is going to be their most pressing need? We'll find out when NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell announces their pick in round number one and see. what the Chiefs' biggest pressing need, at least as far as they feel, truly is. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it will be my pleasure to do the same in return. And that also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports. Also, if you are on, or excuse me, 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge on Instagram, but also if you're on Facebook, definitely be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.